Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. Ravi Kannan of Trivandrum, Kerala writes, "My state is known for its beautiful eco-tourist spots as well as for its thick evergreen forests. It's also known for its fragile ecosystems. So far, the ecosystems have been protected to a large extent because of the labor unrest in the state. This week, we take you to a district that has become synonymous with drought, death and disease, and where human misery had reached legendary proportions. I use the word had because Nandini Rajbare found that things have improved, but not as much as our planners would like us believe.
Steeling myself with the usual pictures of drought and famine, I began my journey to the remote district of Kalahandi, south of Odisha. In the news for over 2 decades now, Kalahandi is synonymous with starvation deaths, acute famine and drought. It isn't even linked by rail. A bumpy jeep ride takes you to the interiors of this district, and to get to where the villages are, you have to walk for at least an hour from where the jeep gives up. The village of Tetelpunga is situated in one of the most inaccessible areas of Kalahandi. Like most of the 2,000 villages of this district, the tribals here have always lived off forests in the area. Agriculture is a subsidiary occupation. A few years ago, but what has surprised even the optimists is that there have been no starvation deaths for the past 3 years. This is despite the fact that most villages continue to live in abject poverty.
किए सस्ता भी नजर नहीं देउथिले आमार पंचायत भी नजर नहीं देउथिले कि किछि नहीं सेमते ही करी आमार बेसी समस्या थिला आगे एबे फार सस्ता आसी करी आमके किछि बुद्धि बात टिके दिले आमे निजे एकजुट हेलु एकजुट हेई करी निजे निजे एंटी कर चलबा बोली करी मुठी भिकिया कलु
Call it the result of media attention, poverty highlighting, or the inflow of funds. Desperate remedial measures have achieved what many thought was impossible. Grain banks set up by NGOs provide reasonable amounts of ragi in drought situations. Water scarcity is tackled by hand pumps installed by the government, though only in some villages. And NGOs work towards making the local man more aware of his rights over his land. And yet, Kalahandi continues to be one of India's most backward districts. To understand exactly why, we continued our journey deeper into the interiors. Odisha has always been a chronic sufferer at the hands of both floods and drought. Both visit the state with unfailing regularity, and Kalahandi is a living reminder of what it means to be held to ransom by nature. Kalahandi was first afflicted by drought in 1965 and then again in 79 and 82. After that, it was almost every year. The result was repeated crop failure, which shattered the backbone of the tribals, who constitute 90% of the population of Kalahandi. Crop failure is particularly crippling in tribal areas where there is little or no surplus production and the farmer aims at producing just enough for his own needs. Strangely enough, the average rainfall recorded by Kalahandi is over 1377 millimeters, whilst a drought-prone area records less than 75 millimeters of rainfall per year.
It's really not correct to say that Kalahandi is a drought-prone district. It is drought-prone, but it is not because of lack of rainfall, it's just because of lack of proper harvesting of the rainfall.
That's an understatement if there ever was one. Even a casual visitor will notice the lack of development activity in the district. The beleaguered agricultural community enjoys no irrigation facilities and alternate employment opportunities haven't been created.
काम दाम पाए तो आज्ञा आर किछि हेंती एबे बसी करी अछन के आर काम दाम किछि नै न.
There should be adequate employment opportunity which is not ensured by the government departments. And as an NGO, I can say that we are not able to tap adequate resources so that we can create employment opportunities for the people.
As a result, locals are pushed into the arms of money lenders, retailers and other middlemen who exact a heavy price in return for helping the tribals tide over their problems.
तमे सरकार तरफ सरकार के किछि खाना खुने असुविधा हला टाइम रे किछि तमे डिमांड करिछ किछि मांग करिछ तमे सेतिने
नाय किछि नै
मांगा मुंगी नै
नाय मांगा नै करे जा माजना का मांगा करे सरकार गले सरकार नै देबार हम कर
केते दिन हला नै मिलबा
बहुत दिन हला ना दुई किस्ती मिली चार किछि नै मिलबा
पाने के दुई मान नै देई पारबो आमे आनी कर खाई करी बोले जार जमी थिले जमी नै जीवा जार पिला थिले पिला के से 10 मान धान आनी थिले पुटेक धान नै देई पारु छु बोले पिला के तार मन कले 2-3 वर्ष भी हलिया रे रखि देवा.
The project officer at the District Rural Development Authority, whom we contacted for a comment, says retailers who exploit locals lose their licenses.
Prompt action is taken for suspension of their licenses to ensure that there is an illustrative effect on the others. Even if we suspend one person, it has an effect on the others. Even we may not be able to catch all of them.
As a result, tribals are losing their lands. Today, 25% of the population owns 75% of the land. The lack of development activity, absence of any sort of infrastructure, and allegations that government funds are misappropriated only makes things worse.
They are trying to say that the money is given, but it is not. Probably it is siphoned off. Is absolutely, I don't agree.
The money has not been gone to the poor. The developmental activities has not been done.
What we did see in some villages were attempts to build water harvesting canals to collect rainwater. These are stray attempts. But what Kalahandi really lacks is coordination between the government and the NGOs.
How much money each NGO gets for working in the district, it is not, we are not very clear on that. Some NGOs do report, some NGOs don't. There are various sources of funds, so that we will not be able to really clarify that this much fund is coming through the NGOs. In terms of money, there is sufficient money flowing into the district. In fact, there's a long-term action plan which has been launched recently.
What Kalahandi needs is a solution which will give the tribals an agriculture-based, subsistence-level livelihood. They cannot afford to wait for the benefits of long-term action plans to trickle down to them.
This place has one railway line, but that more or less just skirts Kalahandi. There is no other way by which the market or the agriculture produce can be marketed outside. The evacuation of products is a big problem. So these are some of the factors that have combined to reduce, or I would say make Kalahandi backward.
We have been demanding seriously that the entire area should be opened up with railway link lines. Whereas the railway board, railway whoever matters, they said that unless this area is commercially viable, I will not enter. And I said even the British didn't say this.
What did Tolstoy and Gandhiji have in common? They both saved small scraps of paper and used it later for writing. I try and follow their example too. I save small bits of paper from my diary, scrapbook and try and use it later. Even in our offices we can save paper by photocopying both sides of the page. Remember, every action of yours counts.
Coming up, what you see is not always what you get, and why leaf eating may be good for you. But first, an update.
Episode 23, March 1995, toxic waste import. Living on the Edge examines a controversy relating to toxic waste import. March 25, 1996. The government's new export-import policy puts the import of zinc ash on the restricted list. Its import had earlier been allowed unrestrictedly as it was a raw material for zinc sulfate, a commonly used fertilizer. April 10, 1996. The Delhi High Court passes an order banning the import of toxic waste in the Harshvardhan case. May 1996. The custom authorities at Tughlakabad, Delhi detain over 120 containers of zinc ash. The Micronutrients Manufacturers Association claimed that the list of items banned by the court referred to zinc lead and not zinc ash. The manufacturers have appealed to the Ministries of Finance, Agriculture and Environment not to misinterpret the court order. They also claim that the alarm raised by environmentalists regarded categorizing zinc ash as toxic waste and that it being imported for dumping was false. Verdict: the environmentalists say zinc ash is hazardous. Manufacturers say it is not. The debate continues and another chapter on the endless toxic waste debate gets written.
Professor Srikanth of Bangalore believes modern technology is putting us out of touch with nature and cites television as an example. But can we imagine our lives without a television set, without channel surfing, or without a remote in our hands? We can't. But would it help to know that TV viewing is not as harmless as it seems, that it affects us all, particularly children, in ways we could never dream possible? Priya Somaya shows you how.
It's inanimate, silent and unmoving. Its brain is an electronic labyrinth of microchips, its lifeline a twisted maze of wires and cables. And moving through it, fired by electrons, flashing through with the speed of light, are a myriad of colors and light patterns. Its power is hypnotic and all-encompassing.
It's your friend, parent, teacher and opinion maker, and it can even substitute for a babysitter. This pixelated image maker has virtually invaded homes, the psyche and the imagination of children and adults across countries and socio-cultural barriers. Expressions like TV addict and couch potato, once used to ridicule the odd person who remained glued to the box, can now ironically be applied to almost all children who have a TV set at home.
She's 4 years old, her name is Swarna, and she watches TV about for 5-6 hours.
But what are the programs that children watch? Is their viewing regulated by parents? Who decides what to watch? And why is TV seen as an easy way to keep children occupied?
In some families, they seem to feel that the television becomes the babysitter. But I disagree with that point because I feel that though the parents can't be all the time in the house, they can regulate what the child does even though they're not there.
Today's media fare includes everything, even subjects that were taboo on TV till recently. Premarital sex, violence, affairs, and everything that goes with it seems to boost ratings. And very often there is no adult to demystify and interpret these images for impressionable minds. These influences may not be apparent at first, but they are insidious and work over weeks and months.
On April 10, 1996, a 6-year-old boy jumped headfirst from the second floor of his house. His parents didn't take him seriously when he said he wanted to bungee jump, like the guy he had seen in a television soft drink commercial. 17-year-old Rajan comes here for counseling. He is having problems at home. Some time ago, in an emotionally charged state, he had slashed his arm.
A few days ago, while I was watching a patriotic movie, I think so the Shaheed one, while watching it, I just felt a little the same way those soldiers were fighting in that movie. They were dying like, I felt myself in the same situation. I don't know why, psychologically I find it that way. But I was so much excited that I just cut my arm. And after some time, when I was in my normal way, I think so, it was a little embarrassing for me to be out of control.
Each of these things that are projected as just media, as just entertainment, please don't take it seriously. You know, you just turn around and say it's bungee jumping. You're really addressing a section of people who are completely sort of, immersed in what they're watching. They're internalizing the whole thing, and they are, adding the whole sense of futility and despair to their, lives.
Living on the Edge visited this resettlement colony in Simapuri in Delhi. It's a congested residential area with few houses that have more than one room. But almost every house has an antenna.
कुछ चीज़ ना हो तो बच्चों की एक ख्वाहिश जो टीवी देखने की है, दूसरी जगह जाने की है, वो ना जाके वो अपने घर में ही रहें. इसलिए ये टीवी चाहे कुछ भी ना हो, लेकिन टीवी जरूर होना चाहिए.
9-year-old Pooja's parents too had bought a television. One day, they came back home to find their daughter hanging from the ceiling. Pooja's younger sister said they were enacting a suicide sequence from a film they had seen on television.
फरीदाबाद में सुना है, लेकिन एड्रेस नहीं मालूम उनका. तो वहाँ 2 बच्चे खेल रहे थे, 2-3 बच्चे जो भी हैं. तो उन्होंने क्या किया कि टीवी में उसमें ऐसे आग लगा देते हैं, मैं तेरे को इसी तरह आग लगा दूंगा. उसने मिट्टी का तेल डाला और उसके ऊपर आग लगा दी. और दोनों बच्चे खत्म हो गए, बताते हैं.
You may argue that these are extreme examples of what TV viewing can do. But there are subtle influences that are equally damaging to young minds, whose effects show up over many years. Playing and reading less as a consequence of excessive TV viewing may not seem a problem at first. Over time, it implies that most social learning becomes second-hand. They imbibe values projected on the screen and aspire to the characters they most admire in soaps and serials. Taken to an extreme, they can actually get lost in what is at best an unreal world.
When a child is putting in all the time to either studies or TV, there is, it has been found that their level of creativity is minimized. And we find that children are over-assertive, aggressive, and having answers to almost all the things which a child of that age can innocently explore in the world outside.
There's another side effect to TV viewing that has often been ignored, and that's the physiological effect of too much TV.
These magnetic fields are cancer promoters. Therefore, if kids are watching TV over a long time, then there is a possibility that they may have the tendency to being exposed to external stress. This magnetic field will be weakening their defense mechanisms.
For all its drawbacks, there can be no doubt that television has broadened horizons, brought the world closer together, and created common denominators like never before. But how much television do our children need? And can we really afford to abdicate responsibility for what unregulated viewing can do?
There are 3 species of crocodiles found in the Indian subcontinent: the gharial, the mugger, and the saltwater crocodile. The gharial is a mild and sociable creature, whereas the mugger and the saltwater crocodiles are generally very aggressive and unpredictable. A crocodile's breakfast, lunch, and dinner consists of fish, amphibians, mollusks, etc. Domestic and wild animals are a delicacy for them. They feast on them occasionally, just for a change. The gharial and the saltwater crocodiles get lovesick between the months of February and March. The mugger, however, pines for its mate only in November. Their hatchlings are generally 25 to 40 centimeters long and grow up to be 2.7 to 4 meters or 1.5 to 2.3 meters depending upon whether it is a male or a female. Sometimes good food and loving care by their parents ensures that they cross the 6-meter mark.
The Ayurveda says it gives you mangalam or good fortune, provides you with essential minerals, and leaves you with a sense of well-being. Shikha Gandhi tells you a little more about the betel leaf. Everyone knows that pan chewing is addictive and that it causes oral cancer. And yet, the chewing habit is all pervasive. Splattered walls, corridors and pavements are evidence enough of an addiction that shows no sign of dying. Of late, however, science is discovering, or rather rediscovering, the beneficial properties of one of the constituents of everyday pan, the betel leaf. It is said to provide mangalam or good fortune and has an honored place in Ayurveda.
आयुर्वेद में जिस पत्ते की भी जो महत्ता दी गई है या जिस वनस्पति की वो मानव के स्वास्थ्य को दृष्टिगत रखते हुए दी गई है। मिनरल में खास तौर से इसमें आयरन तो होता ही है क्योंकि यह हरा भी है, और उसके साथ साथ क्लोरीन अच्छा है, फ्लोरीन अच्छा है और जिंक भी इसमें मिलता है।
Although iron is found in virtually every green vegetable, the betel leaf has it in an easily digestible form. Indian medicine advocates the use of betel after eating meals, mainly because it contains a large quantity of diastase, a starch-digesting enzyme, and it activates salivation.
The moment somebody starts chewing the leaves, there is a feeling of a wellness, because it is said to be a Vedana Har, the drug which can reduce or can minimize your pain.
The feeling of well-being that pan induces comes from an essential oil in the betel leaf. The oil stimulates the nervous system. It is apparently also a strong disinfectant.
In good old days, people used to use phenolic acid, phenol, as a disinfectant. Now same phenol content is rich in betel leaves, and therefore this might be acting as a bactericidal agent if it is applied locally or taken orally.
But if betel is good for you, why has pan chewing proved itself so disastrous for human health? To begin with, tobacco has over 80 cancer-causing substances, and the areca nut or supari contains alkaloids which can damage human genetic material.
It has also been shown that areca nut contains alkaloids, arecoline, and other constituents which are mutagenic. So, areca nut along with tobacco increases the risk for development of cancer.
Chuna and katha too shouldn't be taken in anything more than the minimum quantities. The only real safe element in pan is the betel leaf.
Betel leaf has been shown to have anti-carcinogenic properties. The betel leaf contains alpha-tocopherol, it contains beta-carotene, eugenol and various other components which have been shown to have anti-carcinogenic properties.
So if you can't chuck the pan habit, try chewing just the betel leaf. Even those who don't chew pan may find betel the answer to many of their problems. But then, the idea of chewing plain leaves may not sound appetizing to many. If it's good for you, you have to cultivate a taste for it. More than half the letters we receive each week come from children with story ideas, poems and drawings like this one from Ruth Divya of Bangalore. Thank you, Ruth. Before we leave you this week, here's a sign-off prompted by Muhammad Hussain of Ajmer, who believes that social work is what our society needs at the moment.
Pinky, Pinky, Ponky, Daddy has a donkey. Donkey die, Mummy cry.
One day while going to the office, I saw somebody beating this boy. And I just inquired, who is this boy, why are you beating him? So they said, we give him food because he keeps demanding food. We don't know who he is. He's been here for the last 2 or 3 months. So we make him do odd jobs and give him food. So then I said, okay, can I take him home? They said, okay, because anyway he's a nuisance to us. The older ones are brought by the police, and the younger ones, like the babies, are brought from the hospitals. That is, the doctors inform us when a child is abandoned in the hospitals, and we go and bring the child. They need love and attention, most. I mean, no matter, even if they miss a meal, but they do like to know that somebody cares for them. Initially, I had nobody to work for me. Only she used to stay, Girija used to stay next door, and I used to leave the baby with her and go.
In 92, we had 7 children and we had no funds even to feed the children for that particular month. So then we approached CRY and they started funding us. The best moment of my life is whenever a child puts his faith in us. I mean, first they come, they're not, accustomed to such life, but once they get accustomed and they start confiding in us, then, we feel very happy.
Johnny little played a fiddle, Mama played the drum, Papa played the organ and baby says the drum.